Hello and welcome everyone to this new episode of our audio talks. Now, today I'm going to talk a little bit about a question that I've received from one of our good friends in the UK. And so the question goes, having practiced on and off for some time, I recognize a certain vivid clarity of awareness, and yet simultaneously I can't turn the mind off. It just goes on and on at speed and without leaving a gap. Along with that mental noise is a physical noise, the loud ringing in the ears, which is continuous. If I were to characterize it poetically, it sounds like a bee's nest. The way I deal with it is to just accept both the mental traffic and the physical noise as something I can do nothing about. But if I were honest with myself, I would love to get rid of it. Any advice about this would be greatly appreciated. Okay, so that's the question for today. I see two parts in that question. The first one being the mental noise, and the second one being about the physical noise. Let's start with the mental noise. Now, first of all, Chris talks about a certain clarity of awareness that he experiences, vivid clarity of awareness. And yet simultaneously, he doesn't seem to be able to turn the mind off. He uses these words, turning the mind off. It just goes on and on at speed and without leaving a gap. Okay, so there is something about this that is very common. One, it is for people to want to turn the mind off. And there's this desire for the mind to go silent, to go quiet. So they feel that I can only relax and I can only be aware and I can only experience, spiritual higher states if the mind is turned off. And in a way that's true. It is the case that you experience deeper meditation when the mind is completely silent, completely quiet. But it isn't the desire that gets you there to make the mind quiet. So in order for the mind to grow quiet, the desire for the mind to become quiet has to go away. And so this desire here is an obstacle. And Chris expresses that in the sentence, I can't turn the mind off. There's a lot of people, this is a very, very common request, who want to turn the mind off, quote unquote. They want to switch off their thoughts. They want to just get rid of things. It doesn't work like that. In meditation, it works by shifting your attention elsewhere. The problem is that whatever you're paying attention to persists. So this is the problem. We are dealing with an obstacle, and the obstacle exists because we are dealing with it. Okay, so in a way, we can say that as soon as your interest goes away from the racing, speeding mind, then the racing, speeding mind will fade and it will go into the background. It will eventually disappear because we're just simply not interested in it. So the problem here is really the interest in it and the desire coupled with the interest, the desire to get rid of it. We experience this disturbance as a hindrance in our meditation practice, and it is. But the hindrance cannot go away as long as we're paying attention to it in the wrong way. And paying attention to it in the wrong way is paying attention to it with a desire to get rid of it. So in the beginning, when you're just first starting off, then it might be a good advice to simply pay attention to it and allow it. It'd be rather than trying to get rid of it, Pay attention to it with the idea of exploring it. And explore it in the context of impermanence. Like look at it arise and pass. Look at the various details come and go. It's a bit like looking at a river that flows by. And you're looking at the river flowing by. It can be quite a relaxing experience. It is not a relaxing experience if you're looking at the river and you kind of want to change it. You want to change the way it flows. You want to change the way the waves break. You want to change the way, I don't know, of objects that float in it. So we are just simply looking at the river floating by. Everything coming and going, coming and going. If we do that for a while, there will probably still be a subtle desire for it to disappear, for it to stop flowing. But rather than trying to make the river stop flowing or keep it from flowing, we just simply turn around and the river disappears. We stop trying to change the river. We stop paying attention to it. We stop messing with it, doing stuff to it. So the way for your mind to disappear, well, I'm talking about the moving mind, the mind that produces thoughts and so forth. If in order for that to go away and to disappear, we have to turn away from it. As long as we're looking at it, of course, it will exist. Like the river, as long as you're looking at it, it will exist. And as long as you're looking at it with a certain desire, it will disturb you in a way. It will not allow you to rest. So it's important to turn away from it then. How do we do that? How do I turn away from the mind? Well, turning away from the mind happens if you become interested in something other than the mind or its content. You could say it like that. If you become interested in the mind itself rather than its content. In our example with the river, that would be a little bit like becoming interested in the water itself rather than the things that the water transports. But that's not a really good example because we kind of want to, we want the flowing quality from the mind to disappear. So the mind can experience stillness. Therefore, it is a very good idea to bring the mind to something else. So here is where concentrative meditation or stilling the mind plays a great role. So you want to practice stilling the mind, bringing your attention to an object which is neutral, which is calm, which is relaxing you, such as the breath. So we are working with the breath in our meditation method. So you bring your mind to the breath. And you bring your interest to the breath. You start exploring the breath. And yes, in the beginning, this is very difficult because your interest is still very much with the mind and its content. So you have to train to concentrate. Some people say, I don't really like the word concentration. But this is essentially what we are doing. We are concentrating on something else without the aspect of being tense. You're interested in something else. Therefore, you're naturally concentrating on it. You're not kind of forcing the mind to go somewhere else because that kind of still is an expression of the desire to get rid of this forcing. But you're redirecting your attention. You find something else more interesting than the endlessly flowing mind and its content. So this is the way to end the production of content in the mind. You turn away from that to something that is more simple, more pure in nature, which is your breath. As you breathe in, you know that you're breathing in. As you breathe out, you know that you're breathing out. And here's a little tip. when you're doing that, just focus on that one breath. Think only of this one breath. There's nothing else that you need to worry about. Like, for example, how many breaths have I been mindful for? Or how long will I be able to hold my mindfulness on the breathing? Forget that. Just drop it. Instead, it is totally sufficient to be mindful for the duration of the in-breath. That is totally enough. Try that. Knowing as you breathe in, from the very first start of the in-breath to the end. And then there is a short little gap in between. Then you're only aware for the duration of that gap. And then you're only aware for the duration of the out-breath, from the very first moment of it to the very end of it. Just do it like that. Then you do the same thing again, just only for this in-breath. May I be aware. And you focus on the in-breath. Just exploring how it vibrates through the body, how you can feel it filling the lungs, or whatever it is that tells you that you're breathing in your body. Investigate that. Be interested in it. Because it's actually quite a fascinating process, the in-breath. We're usually so dulled down in our mind that we don't find it fascinating anymore. We're so used to endless entertainment and whatnot and consumption of all sorts of fancy, colorful things that the simplicity of the breath appears as something extremely dull. When in reality it is something so highly complex. It's quite amazing fact that you're breathing in. It's actually kind of a weird thing that happens in the body. You're breathing in. You're existing in a realm where in order to energize the body, you need to breathe in the air around you. Isn't that a weird thing? Just the fact that you're existing in this realm where this is required of you, to breathe in and then to breathe out again. And then what it all these things that happen with the in-breath in your body, it's quite amazing. How does that even work? That pulling in air keeps you alive. Isn't that weird? Now that would naturally trigger interest within me. I would naturally then kind of want to know more about the breath, not by reading about it or watching YouTube clips about breathing, but by exploring it directly. How does it feel to breathe? I remember when I was at school and we had these excursions every now and then. We went out into the forest and the teacher would explain to us what leaves are and how a tree kind of would survive during winter time and so forth. And so one time I remember the teacher was explaining to us about the various, facets of a leaf, and would explain that the leaf has all these little cells and there's chlorophyll in them and all these kind of things. And as the teacher was explaining that, I felt incredibly interested in it because he was holding up this leaf in front of us. And at the end of the explanation, when he explained to us all these amazing facts about a leaf of a tree, then he gave it to us, and he allowed us to kind of have a look at it and to explore it and to touch it and feel it and then to take in all these things that he was talking about. So it wasn't just staying something theoretical, philosophical, I don't know, anything like that, but it became something really practical. It became something that you could touch, that you could feel, that you could smell. And so this is the same with your breathing. You might want to study a little bit up on the breath, what it really does in your body, and then experience that as you sit down and meditate. That allows you to become interested in it. As you're interested in it, your concentration on the breath will deepen naturally. And all the other stuff it becomes not interesting anymore, like what the mind is thinking about and so forth. And as it's not interesting anymore, you turn away from it. As you turn away from it, it disappears. What you're not interested in disappears. What you're not paying attention to disappears. You all know that from, for example, going to sleep at night. You're not paying attention anymore to your ears, to your eyes. You're closing everything, and then you go within. You also know it from reading an interesting book. As the book is really interesting, everything around you will fade. It will go away, it will disappear. Even if people are talking to you, you're not really hearing what they are saying. And only if they repeatedly talk to you and kind of touch you as well to get your attention, then your attention goes to them eventually. You can hear them again. You can understand what they're saying, but you couldn't understand them as long as you were still absorbed in the book or in a movie or whatever it is. As long as something is really interesting, your attention naturally goes there. And then naturally you would also go deeper into it. You kind of get absorbed in it. And this is exactly what's happening in good meditation practice. You want to get absorbed in your breath. All your attention is with your breath, because it's so incredibly interesting to be aware of in-breathing and out-breathing. Now, anything that sparks your interest is, of course, valuable. So take in this information, study a little bit about the breath, make it interesting in your mind, and it will be easier to concentrate on it. But a cool thing is, if you manage to concentrate on your breath without interruption for a few seconds, let's say 20, 30 seconds, if there's no interruption in your concentration and you're fully with your breath, the breath will naturally reveal deeper layers, and it will naturally become interesting. You start to feel weird sensations in the body. As a result of your mind being fully focused on one thing, it will also reveal hidden layers in that thing that you're focusing on. So if you're concentrating on your breath, and you're concentrating well, and you manage to keep your mind with your breath for a long time, then the breath will gradually kind of unfold, and it will show you deeper layers. For example, you will be able to feel your breath as being like something that flows through your entire body. Not only that, you will discover gradually details about the way it flows through your body and where it might be stuck, or where it is kind of calmly abiding, and where it is flowing very strongly, where it is flowing slowly. You might even be able to breathe all the way down into your feet, literally, and you can feel the energy move through the body following the breath. You can even direct it and play with it. If that isn't interesting, then I don't know what to say in that moment, because it will naturally be interesting because it will feel good as well. Like the deeper you go, the better you feel, the more still your mind becomes, the more nice the experience is. So that naturally you become interested in it. And even me talking about this might spark your interest. You might feel like, okay, next time I'm sitting down, I want to really concentrate on what I'm doing and trying to keep the mind with just this one in-breath, just this one out-breath continuously, to see how deep it goes, to listen to the breath, to listen to its story, to listen to its various deeper layers that it might reveal. Maybe you became curious. Curiosity is interest. You're interested in it now. That's good. Go ahead and sit down and explore and play with it. So this is the way for your attention to be directed properly. In meditation, this means if you want something to go away, stop focusing on it. Okay? So at that stage, this is the advice that I can give. For the other part of the question, the ringing noise in the ears, I would recommend to maybe see like a qualified physician, a doctor, have it checked out, of course, to make sure it's nothing bad, not some sort of physical disturbance or illness. And you can visit multiple doctors doing that, like go to a natural healer, for example, a traditional Chinese medicine or something like that, and at the same time maybe visit a Western doctor or something like this to just get it checked and see if everything is all right. And if there is something that you can do about, then do it. And if there is nothing that you can do about, your approach is already correct. Just allow it to be there. And again, the same kind of laws apply. If you're not paying attention to it, it will fade and disappear. It's like, when you go to sleep, you're not paying attention to your body anymore, and guess what happens? It disappears. You're unaware of your body. You go into dreamland and you climb mountains and you swim in the sea and you fly through the air. And you couldn't do that if you were still aware of your body lying in bed, right? So it's the same kind of thing. If you lose your interest in something, it fades, it disappears. All right? So this is all that comes to mind for this kind of topic. And I hope it really answered the question a little bit or gave you some input that you can work with. And for all those of you who are listening to this, you might still have some questions. Please just send them to me. I'm happy to talk about them and answer them in these little talks here. And that is all for this time. And I'm looking forward to see all of you again or hear all of you again very soon. By the way, our classes will open again next month, June. It's June 2020. And I'm looking forward to see all of you again here at the Center live. And until then, I wish all of you a wonderful week and practice well. Bye-bye.